What really happened to Japan Airlines Flight 1628 in 1986? In today's video, we will tell you about this incident in detail, so make sure to watch the video till the end. On the evening of November 17th of 1986, Japan Airlines Flight 1628, a Boeing 747-200 cargo aircraft, was en route from Paris to a layover in Anchorage, Alaska on its way to Tokyo. The three-person crew was led by pilot Kenju Terauchi, who would go on to report a seemingly inexplicable encounter in the skies over northern Alaska as they approached the airport in Anchorage. The story told by Captain Terauchi, potentially corroborated by his first officer, Takanori Tamefuji, and his flight engineer, Yoshi Tsukuba, would go on to become the stuff of legends. On account of this, anyone with even a moderate interest in the UFO/UAP topic has likely heard of the incident, which became one of the more hotly debated reports of an encounter with unexplained craft in our skies by a commercial airline pilot. The incident has been featured in multiple television programs and docuseries, and touted as one of the most compelling UFO reports in modern history. In addition to the eyewitness testimony given by all three crew members when they were interviewed during the investigation that followed, the FAA eventually provided radar data from the event and transcripts of radio tower chatter with the plane. Questions about the event quickly arose, however, leading some to wonder if Captain Terauchi had truly witnessed anything extraordinary at all. Unfortunately, much of the FAA information seemed to go missing as the years went by, though various bits and pieces could still be found online. The debunking of UFO reports was already a thriving industry by the mid-80s, and the Japan Airlines Flight 1628 incident was subjected to the same skeptical inquiries as all the rest. However, the FOIA government records archivist John Greenewald, proprietor of the Black Vault, completed a 17-year quest to acquire the full package of FAA records from that investigation, much of which had purportedly been destroyed. Following an update he published, we pored over this trove of documents to see if any more definitive answers regarding this long-standing case might be uncovered. What was it the pilot claimed to have seen? You can read much lengthier recountings of the tale online, but we'll provide the thumbnail version of the story here to get our readers started. On the evening in question, while approaching Anchorage, the crew of JAL 1628, primarily Terauchi, reported seeing two brightly illuminated objects off to the left of their aircraft. After initially ignoring them, assuming it was just random commercial or military traffic in the area, the objects reportedly moved closer to the cargo jet and began pacing alongside it. At that point, Terauchi radioed the control tower in Anchorage to ask if there was any other traffic in the area. He was told there was not, but the tower did tell the captain that they were picking up other craft in his vicinity, though only intermittently. The pilot was granted permission to undertake a series of course and altitude changes to avoid a possible collision, but the objects continued to track the jet. At their closest approach, Captain Terauchi reported that the plane's cabin was lit up brightly and the crew could feel heat emanating from them. The two objects eventually departed, but they were then replaced by a much larger craft that Terauchi would later describe as a mother ship trailing behind them. That chase continued until shortly before Japan Airlines 1628 was approaching the airfield at Anchorage. The flight then landed safely and without incident. Issues soon arose over the crew's reports. Reading through all of the FAA documents, numerous details pop up, some of which appear to support the accounts of the crew members, while others provide fuel for skeptics of their accounts. The FAA is traditionally very guarded about discussing anomalous sightings, but they conducted what appears to be a very thorough investigation in this case. Of potential interest is the fact that the government retained and highlighted the work published by Philip J. Klass in the magazine's special reports in the summer of the following year. Klass was well known as a skeptic of UFO encounter accounts and studied all of the data seeking mundane explanations as to what had actually happened. True to form, he cited numerous issues with the information that had been supplied and developed alternate explanations for some of the accounts of the crew, as well as the data collected by the control tower. The final determination that Klass reached was that the first two brightly lit objects seen by the crew were most likely bright stars peeking through the sporadic cloud cover, and the mothership behind the flight was probably the planet Jupiter. The public affairs officer for the FAA in Alaska seemed more than content to accept Klass' analysis. He went on record saying that his agency does not have the resources or the congressional mandate to investigate sightings of unidentified flying objects. Confusion arises in interviews with the Japan Airlines 1628 crew. Some of the initial problems in the fine details of the investigation come with the transcripts of the interviews done with the crew. For example, the interview with Captain Terauchi conducted by Richard Gordon, the manager of the Regional Flight Standards District Office, seems fairly coherent. But despite having an interpreter present, the interview appears to have been conducted in English, and the captain's command of the language seems limited at best. He describes the various lights he saw and the events he remembers, but much of it is garbled. He also describes attempting to take a picture of the objects with his camera. But the interviewer spends a lot of time asking him about previous UFO sightings he had reported. This was something class picked up on, describing Terauchi as a UFO repeater because he'd had 2 previous sightings. This is a red flag, implying that, as a believer, Terauchi may have simply seen what he wanted to see. Of course, others might argue that Terauchi was a repeat experiencer and more likely to have such encounters. The captain later provided an extensive set of notes about his experience where he waxed poetic on the subject of UFOs. Other problems arise with the interviews done with the other 2 crew members. The interview with First Officer Takanori Tamefuji was similarly done in English despite the presence of an interpreter. Much of it is barely understandable, but he does explain that he couldn't see much of what was going on to the left of the plane because of his position on the right side of the cockpit. When the objects were directly ahead of the plane, he describes them as being only lights, and he couldn't say they were distinguishable from stars. The interview with flight engineer Yoshi Tsukuba is far more concise. The first question from Tsukuba is, "May I speak Japanese?" The interpreter handles it from that point on, and the record is presented in a quite clear and coherent fashion. He seems to lend at least some credence to the captain's account, describing 2 types of lights that were not town lights. But he also could not make out any sort of craft or structure. They were just lights. That's quite different from the captain's descriptions. Was any of this real? This story has been covered so many times on unexplained television series and by ufology bloggers that many in ufology circles seem to take it as gospel. And the descriptions of some of these events that they rely on to make the case certainly do lend it the patina of truth. But when you poke too far into the gritty details, some of the flaws in the story become somewhat glaring. Neither of the 2 crew members confirmed seeing anything except lights, while the captain described an object with nozzles. The crews of 2 other aircraft saw nothing at all. Out of 4 separate radar systems, 2 produced no returns, 1 had a momentary glitch that seemed erroneous, and the last one acquired a target briefly, if it wasn't also a glitch, that simply disappeared. That's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. What do you think really happened? Was it really a UFO encounter? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. And don't forget to hit the like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay connected and get updates on new videos and amazing content. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching the video.